Welcome to our bite-sized episodes of the Cardiff Met Sports Coaching Hub podcast, brought to you direct from the CRIC Conference 2024. Enjoy this episode. Okay, we're back for another episode of the Sports Coaching Hub podcast, a bite-sized episode recorded live here at CRIC, and I'm joined by Dr Christian Bjørndal. How are you? You okay?
I'm good. It's been a great weekend, so it's going to be a shift of focus actually going back home to Norway and then kind of easing into like ordinary work life again.
It will be. It's been a great weekend. Yeah, can't disagree with you on that one. Why don't we start with some introductions? So you just mentioned there from Norway. Tell us a little bit about your role at the university over there, and perhaps a little bit about your research journey and what you're here at CRIC for.
So I'm celebrating my 20th anniversary at the Norwegian School of Sports Sciences this autumn. I came in as a 19-year-old that didn't really knew what he was doing, but he liked sports. I was a handball player, transitioned into professional coaching at quite an early age. I've been working with professional handball and youth handball and elite handball in Norway for 10 years or so, while I was studying, doing my master's undergrad degree before that, and then coming back as a PhD candidate. I've been working at coaching alongside studying coaching for 15 years now almost. So it's been a good journey. Occupied lots of different positions within Norwegian sports, and now I'm only a university professor at our department. So yeah.
Great, super. And what brings you to CRIC? What work was it that you brought to CRIC, and what were you sharing with everyone?
So CRIC's been an important kind of place for us because like the critical sports coaching community isn't that big, eh? So CRIC was the first conference I ever attended 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And then we've attended the CRIC conference from then. So what I brought to the CRIC conference today was a small study that's ongoing, where we're trying to explore the discourse of talent identification and development within the Norwegian Football Association and their talent pathway. So what happened was that 5 years ago they produced a TV documentary, a mini-series, where you're following 5 boys throughout one season of selection, deselection, setback, injuries, opportunities that arise, and their journey through the national team pathway, trying to make themselves eligible for selection to the national team. And it's a very intense, edited, cut down glimpse of how talent is performed, and what these kids learn about how they need to think, feel and behave in order to become professional football players. So there's a critical analysis of that, because when you try to uncover some of the thinking that kind of, or discourses that constrains behavior, it's also an opportunity to kind of see if we could also shift focus and do things differently, and maybe we could produce different outcomes, sometimes better, sometimes worse, or maybe even the same. When we talk about talent development, it is a contested area. Some of the associated kind of the things you need to do to kind of compete for those selections is bringing with them a lot of detrimental psychosocial, mental health, maybe issues, and sometimes even physical, because it's intense. You get injured, and that has a lot to say if you're on your opportunities for success in the end, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the talk that you gave talked a little bit about subjectification and sort of the presentation of that as well. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the nuance, some of the detail there? Yeah. What were the findings and some of the interesting things for coaches, but for those that are working in governing bodies as well when it comes to that kind of thing?
Now, so you learn. So it's very easy to kind of depict how it is about competition, about doing your job, the kind of the seriousness that kind of comes with competing for these selections, and the coaches involved are a very big advocate and kind of a key stakeholder in kind of producing these discourses. But they're also genuinely caring coaches. So it talks to some of the kind of the paradox between on one side kind of increasing this competition that has all these negative associations to it in one way. And then on the other hand, trying to be a very supportive, genuinely caring coach. These kids learn how to behave and think and feel about these things in ways that are productive, so they're eligible for selection. They learn to work hard. They learn to suck it up, and sometimes you need to suck it up. And then, but on the other hand, they're very, very vulnerable at the same time. So what we're trying to problematize is then, if even within this kind of discourse, and with the caring. With the genuinely caring coaches that are within this environment, can you actually achieve that, or can you achieve the positive outcomes of being a caring coach if you don't do anything with the structures that kind of just increase this hyper masculinity, hyper competitiveness, and this dog eat dog kind of mentality, eh? Yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing we try and shine light on is how. When you talk about talent development, you talk about identifying kids with potential or whatever, we can problematize that, but it's really like, you can't identify talent, and to be talented, you have to do a lot of stuff every day to still be, to actually perform talent in a way that makes you eligible for selection or developmental opportunities and stuff like that. So coaches act as both gatekeepers and distributors of resources, and also as important support people for these young kids. But in order to be talented, you're reliant on this huge network of actors that actually kind of opens up these gateways or doors, so you can actually stay talented within this pathway. So thinking about talent as something individual is very limited. It is something relational there that we kind of want to put forth. And if it's relational, okay, so our strategies to support talent then shouldn't be maybe only focused on improving the individual, it's actually on improving kind of some of these relational dynamics.
So is there a finding in there that's a little bit for players as well, in terms of understanding, well, what is it that my coaches and my governing body thinks talent is, and how can I sort of, fake it till I make it type?
Yeah, and I think they learn that really quick. So they learn how to fake it till they make it or don't make it. And well, they're probably pretty disciplined coming into these environments. So they already know how to work hard. They know that they have to perform. There's a lot of emotional labor in kind of performing when you're vulnerable and stakes are high and all of this. I think that if we can provide something for players here, it is that, okay, so you can also kick back on some of this stuff. You don't need to kind of take everything on face value. So, and relax a little bit. You need to work hard. You need to, do what you can to improve, but it's like talent development or developmental learning processes. They're not linear, right? And they're unpredictable. So there's some stuff you need to do, train hard and try and improve, and that's super, but how fast you develop, how fast you learn, and how it goes in the end is relying on so many other factors beyond your control. So just kick back and relax a bit. And it's like, if you look at the success from the junior to senior transition in professional football, it's like statistically, we can't identify a relationship before under the 21 level. So it's like sometimes I think that we want to get great coaching environments, great coaches, lots of developmental opportunities, but we don't need to kind of stress that developmental pace that we always kind of impose on them.
And part of the conference has been talking about our research being impactful, having an impact. So you said you're doing this with the Norwegian Football Association. Yeah. Out of the findings and out of the recommendations, have they taken anything on board? Are you meeting resistance in places? How's that gone for you?
Well, it's easy to fix people. It's different. It's hard to fix structures and how to change policy and practice in that way. Norway is a small country. I do a lot of public speaking in Norway. I write newspaper chronicles, stuff like that. And even if it doesn't have any kind of like direct one-to-one effect, I know that Håkon, who's head of talent development in the Norwegian Football Association, will read that and have to engage with that on some level. And then being part of this kind of messy everyday realities of coaching yourself and talent development, it's like most people have good intentions, both coaches, sport organizations, everyone. But then just getting us together in the same room, having these conversations, trying to put research into practice and research that is based upon and derived from practice, that is a good strategy. And then being slightly optimistic, hopefully that can kind of actually transform some of these environments or make sure that they don't go into the same rabbit holes as others have done. And the last thing of that is that we have so at our university in Norwegian School of Sports Science, we have a 5-year sports coaching program, a 3-year undergrad, and then a 2-year master's program. And that is a great opportunity to influence so many young people going through those educational programs. So I'm thinking if I have sport organizations that I think should have listened to what we're trying to say, if they don't, okay, I still have my 120 students or whatever it is every year that I'm happy to learn from and influence. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah, that's nice. And Robin mentioned that yesterday Friday on day one of the conference about. Listen, our job at universities is to produce graduates who will then go and affect change. So that's obviously coming into your program, which is great. One of our other speakers at the conference this weekend has been Professor Lars Tore Rongland. How closely do you get to work with Lars, and how influential has he been on your journey as an academic? And because we get a snapshot of what he's been talking about here at the conference, but what's it been like working with someone like that?
Well, it's been good. It's been my journey was kind of going into university, and then Lars Tore has been my supervisor when I was a master's student, and then as a PhD candidate as well, and PhD student. So he's one of my academic fathers, I think. So he's had a strong influence. I think that when I was studying, I would finish my master's in 2009. We had Robin Jones as a 0.2 position at our university. He and Lars Tore was friends. We started reading the Chris Cushion, the Paul Pottrak, the Lars Tore and Robin papers that came out during 2003, 2004, 2005. It wasn't that long ago. So that had a significant influence on my development. And then I was fortunate enough to have a couple of really good external examiners for my PhD thesis. One of them was Jim Dennison, who became a close friend. So then Jim kind of shifted my thinking in a way and kind of had me kind of rapidly progressive in not a different direction, but an alternate direction as well. And now kind of looking back on that in hindsight, and the presentation I did here yesterday as well, I'm building upon the material that Lars Tore kind of introduced me to as a master's student, going back to Goffman, which it took me about 15 years since I read Goffman the last time before turning back to him now. And then Jim's kind of progressive, political, Foucauldian, inspired post-structuralist approach. And now kind of bridging those two different theoretical traditions is really, really fun to experiment with. So if I have one suggestions for people, the people that are coming after, is that I had so much fun reading outside of my own discipline, reading almost randomly, coming across books, papers, topics that seems interesting or intriguing, and just trying to see how it fits with our understanding, and then kind of not kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater and watering things out, but I'm not too afraid. So talk about discipline. It's it's good to kind of so unstructured reading is sometimes undervalued as well.
Nice. I think it's a nice tip. Yeah. It's a great tip. Just to try and read a little bit more widely, read outside the discipline is good. So just to finish up this bite-sized episode, then CRIC next year in Norway.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to most about that, and how special is it going to be having the conference come to home turf?
We're super excited. We have a great campus in Oslo. We have lots of great facilities. We think we can host a great conference there. If it's 100 people or 300 people, doesn't matter. We have a great setup to host a conference. We already planned several pre-conference workshops. Right. So we're going to do a conference from Wednesday to Friday, June 18th, 19th, and 20th. But we're going to have a full week program for those interested, and then hopefully someone wants to spend their weekend in Oslo, or maybe do a bit of traveling. So that's a good way to experience Norway as well. Also, it's a pretty vibrant city, great restaurant scene, and everything. So, and then the British pound is now that strong compared to the Norwegian kroner. So for the first time in history, a pint of beer is actually, it's not cheap in Norway, but it's cheaper than it used to be, and maybe the same price as here in the UK, actually.
Perfect. So for everyone who needs to go away and start laying the groundwork on funding and all of that sort of stuff to get the travel, they've got the soundbite. They've got everything they need now to run it past their program directors and their finance managers.
And get in touch with us. We can. Well, I'm not going to say we can fix everything, but it's like we're happy to accommodate wishes and needs and try and see if we can tailor stuff. So we're already trying to get some people over now during the autumn semester to build some relationships and inspire people to get over to Norway next year.
Perfect. So it's lunchtime for us, so we're going to stop the bite-sized episode there. Christian, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to come and speak to us and delaying your lunch. Really appreciate it, and all eyes on Oslo.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you want to know a little bit more about CRIC, head to the website at cricsportcoaching.com, and you can follow along on Twitter as well at cric_SCR.